Welcome to the 100th episode of the Nice Guy Show.
In this episode, we're going to dive into the idea of vision.
Because the one thing a lot of nice guys struggle with is knowing what the hell they want. Is that you? Do you struggle with knowing what you want from relationships, from family, from life itself? Welcome to the Nice Guy Show. I'm your host, Ari Graff. I'm here with my co-hosts, Chuck and Faisal. It's the 100th motherfucking episode of the Nice Guy Show. Light some fucking candles, pop some champagne. So we're going to celebrate by mainly looking forward, giving you guidance on how to create your own vision. And we're going to share our own visions. Before we get started, I want to give you just a little definition of having a vision. So we're not just talking about something that seems woo-woo and out there. So here's a definition of a vision that I got from my coach, Debbie. Shout out to Debbie. The definition of having vision is the choice to see beyond the short-sighted limitations, the boundaries, and the demands of everyday life. So when you're creating your vision, it's very important that you practice imagining that you're not limited by what you already know, by what you already have in your life right now, by your education, by your experience, even the people around you. So it's very important. What is your vision in all areas of your life? And when you're doing this, give yourself permission to create a vision in each area without concern about how you'll obtain the outcome. I know it's scary, nice guys. We're going to take you through this. So I want to start out this process with you guys by asking you, what type of visioning did you do in the past? Did you have one? Chuck?
I haven't really. I think I've had different ideas, and I would call them probably ideas more so than vision. But what I have noticed for myself is the older I get, the more I see the importance of vision and how like having a target, a place that you're going, like that's super important in anything in life. Because if you don't have a vision, you're just walking around blind. You have no idea where you're doing. And I think a lot of guys, what I generally say is like without a vision, you will get bored. It's just going to be Groundhog's Day every day, over and over again. If you have a vision and you know where you're going, then you can get excited about that. But if you don't know where you're going, then you're just walking around blindly. And I think that's probably a lot of guys have that. They just kind of, they get up, they do their job, they come home, they eat TV, they eat dinner and watch TV. And then, it's just kind of the same thing over and over again. So I think nice guys oftentimes are just bored because they don't have a vision and nobody really showed them how to create a vision either.
Yeah. How about you, Faisal? Have you visioned before?
Yeah. So every time in my life it's awakened the fire inside of me, the passion, the desire. And I've been relentless. But when I don't have a vision, I'm lazy, I'm aimless, I don't know, I'm overthinking, ruminating, don't know, exactly what path to take. I waste a lot of time. So I can see how having a vision, it's so important, so powerful, and it's not always easy to get. But when we don't have it, it's painful, and I hate it. And sometimes, I go between. So when I've had visions, I got the results, unstoppable, and you don't know where this comes from. It's something like deep inside.
What's an example? Was your business that you had a vision that you had?
Yeah. So I remember back in 1990, late 90s, I got introduced to the internet, and I remember at midnight, an idea came to me, and I wrote it on a piece of tissue. So I wrote a domain name on a piece of tissue, and then the next morning I bought it. And then for 2 years, relentlessly, I worked at this internet site, and I was working on this business. I was studying for my degree at the time, and I was working full time. So I was doing 100 hours a week, and it was easy because I had this vision. It was nothing going to stop me. And I just had to get
this tissue in your pocket this whole time.
yeah. It evaporated. But that's where it started off. And it became my full-time business, and it grew. So that was one. And I remember there's been several. And then the last one was, I remember and it was one of the most fun thing. It was a hobby. I love poker, and there was a poker league I wanted to set up. It was all about, you play for points. It's very sociable. And when I had this desire for it, I set it up within a few months. I even wrote a software just to help me, support me with the whole league. Nothing stopped me. Nothing could get in the way. There was like nothing. There was no, in both occasions, there was no such thing as rejection. There's only going to, I'm going to get the result. And I love that.
You really had a fire in you.
It was relentless. And I don't have that as much.
That shirt looks like you're on fire right now.
I know, right? it was back from those days. It was actually a white shirt, but yeah, it caught fire.
Yeah. It's interesting about vision. I think, everyone has a vision. It just might be an unconscious one, and it might just be a repetition of the past. So like my vision for my marriage was that, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I would say marriage equals death. Like my vision was marriage was going to be boring and stifling and overwhelming. And you know what? That's what I got.
Was that a vision or a belief or something? What?
Well, it was a belief, but it was a belief that, there would be a deadness to marriage. That, the fun, the sex life, it would all kind of.
Was that on your vision board then? Was it like a tombstone and your marriage to?
No, but this is my point. I think that a lot of men and probably a lot of nice guys, we don't have a blueprint that we create for a relationship, for a marriage. What could a great relationship look like? What were you saying?
Oh, just for many things, whether it's your relationship, your career, your, being a father, being a friend. And I think that's the thing about men in general, and women too. I'm not going to, but we have a lot of different roles that we play. And if you don't have a vision for each one of those roles, then again, you're just kind of walk around blindly. But if you know where you want to go, right? So, for example, this January, the three of us are going to be going to Mexico. All right. We now have a vision of where we're going. Now it's just a matter of buying the tickets, making the plans, booking the Airbnb,
wearing the shirts,
having a vision, wearing the shirts.
We got the shirts.
We got this. We're there.
By having a vision, we're going to get there, right? And then we have but if we were just like, hey, it'd be nice to get together sometime. How about, and there's no vision, there's no execution on that vision. And I think that's just a small example of many things that as leaders we need to have. We need to have a vision for where we're going, and we need to be able to express the vision to the people that we're leading so that they're excited and want to follow us.
Okay. Well, that brings me to my next question. So I want to ask each of us, what is your 1-year vision? And then I'm going to ask you, what is your 10-year vision, which can seem really hard. So what kind of person do you want to be in 1 year? What achievements and experiences would you want to have that would make you feel proud and fulfilled? If you're listening or watching this, these are the questions you can ask yourself too. What impact do you want to have on the people in your life, on your community, on the world? Where do you want to be living? What kind of balance do you want to have between work and family life and leisure? So it's a lot, but start thinking about your vision. Give yourself license to do this. So, Faisal, what does your ideal life look like in 1 year?
I know what I want in my business. So one of the things I do want to achieve is like a rinse and repeat kind of business, because at the moment, when you start, because I completely changed careers from going from tech to now life coaching. And as I'm sitting and developing this foundation, there is a lot of refinement that goes on, and there's a lot of like, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. And the tricky situation is that I have this really annoying, but I know that I'm not the only one who suffers from this, is that shiny object syndrome. It's like, oh, that looks good. Oh, that's really exciting. Oh my, I should do that. I should do that.
This is one of the obstacles for you and a lot of people.
Yeah, it is, because I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. I love coming out with creative ideas. I'm just so full of creative ideas. I just wish I had like a full army of just to get them executed. I like the idea of creating the ideas, but I don't like doing the boring stuff of it. So that's the struggle I have. And
So
my
what I'm going to interrupt you. One of the things that gets in the way, I think, with creating and living out your vision is distractions and lesser goals. So there might be a benefit to all these things you're thinking of.
yeah,
But the question is, what really meets your vision?
yeah, because that's the thing. I don't have a true North Star yet. And that's the thing. When I was doing my, two businesses, I had a real clear North Star, and there was nothing stopping me. There was no distractions. There was no shiny objects. It was like, this is where I'm going. This is what I need to do. I'll find the way. And right now, it's like I don't have that true star, because as you get older, you start evolving and you start thinking, well, what do I want my life to be like? What am I enjoying? There is that aspect of, I'm pretty comfortable. I know for sure that I don't want to go into like performance, be working another 80 hours a week, slugging away. My strongest vision is I love spending time with family. I love spending time with my kids. I love traveling with them, enjoying them. I would say 1 year vision is to be able to be in a business where I just rinse and repeat, it creates something on the side that it can just produce its wealth. So that's something I'm looking at. And then I want to have a place where I live in multiple places, multiple countries. So when it's freezing cold in the UK,
in 1 year.
No, that's my 10-year one. So in
That's
1
your
year,
10 years.
yeah. So my 1 year one is definitely just rinse and repeat business. It's I have a very clear on my business, but everything else is pretty settled.
Rinse and repeat. He's gonna have a showering business. Faisal's barbershop. It's okay if your vision is a draft. It's always a draft.
It is, but it's annoying though, because because it's draft. You just scribbling out and then rewriting something, scribbling off and then rewriting something. So I know what it feels like when you have a North Star, and that feels amazing.
I think what you don't have is you don't have a pinpoint yet on the map.
Yeah.
It's like, like, oh, I want to go on holiday, right? But there's all these different choices. Oh, I can go to this country. I can go to this country. I can go to this country. And until you like pick one and go, all right, I'm going to Machu Picchu. I just said that because that's where I'm going next year. But I want to go there. Yeah,
I'll come with you.
I have vision, and I put it on the map. That you gotta be able to like say, this is where I'm going to go, and then then you just, once you know where to go, then you can execute on that. But if you don't know where you're going to go and you're just like, I know I want to go on holiday. And I think that that's the thing that a lot of guys, myself included, struggle with. Oh, I know I want to have a lot of money. Okay, well, what's the vehicle that's going to get you there? Oh, well, there's so many different vehicles out there that I could choose. I'm not sure which one I'm going to choose. And so we end up trying a bunch of different ones out. Oh, that one didn't work. That one didn't work, and instead of like really having a honed in, focused idea of where we're going to go.
But what I didn't hear from you, Faisal, was, kind of a sort of an idea about how you're going to create, what this business is, the rinse and repeat business. Like, because I know you're super talented, like as a coach and as a speaker. So, how are you going to share your unique gifts?
One of the things I have found myself is being very hesitant, and it's quite. I was thinking about this myself. Is I spent more time recently in rumination than I've ever done in my life. So less time in action and less time in trying things out and taking more risks. I find out the more I've gotten older a bit, I've been more risk adverse. I'm thinking, well, okay, it might work, it might not work. I'm pretty comfortable in my coaching business. It makes money. I'm okay here. But what I realize is that I'm not really getting out of my comfort zone and going, right, fully commit and let's see what happens. Take a risk. Because I guess, once you've gone through a divorce, once you've lost your business, once you've gone through all of this, now you become more cautious and you play it more safe. So one of the things I'm doing now, I can see myself is playing it very safe.
Okay. And this exercise, you can vision yourself just kind of doing more of what you've been doing or doing it a little better. But, the way that I've framed it or asked the questions, I'm asking you to do it without setting boundaries on yourself or setting limits on yourself, which, that's something that nice guys, I think, really need to do, is to give themselves that license to even just ask the questions about what do they really want, to not worry so much about how they're going to get it, not know all the steps.
But don't you think that sometimes if you have too much leeway, too much space, because, for example, like even going to Mexico, until we decided, hey, this is where we're going, this is the date, then now I've got the North Star, I have commitment. Because if you're like, for example, I'm like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. There's no commitment. There's no like, okay, this is the path, this is the tunnel, this is the lane, stay in that lane.
I think that's the part of where we have to come up with a decision. We have to make a decision.
Yeah, it's commitment.
And that's the harder part, because when you're, it's the fear of missing out. Like, well, if I put all my chips on this one thing and then that doesn't work out and I've missed these other opportunities that maybe would have worked better. And I think that's the thing that keeps us from actually like really committing and doubling down on a single focus. What in any of those domains, whether it's being a husband, a father, a coworker, business owner, the different roles that we have, until we make like a singular focused decision of, this is what I want it to look like and this is how I'm going to get there. So there's the vision is, this is where we're going. The vehicle is, this is how we're going to get there. And oftentimes I think we focus on the vehicle piece of it and not the vision. And so we're just driving around in circles. How's that for a metaphor?
Yeah, I don't think we have to have the vehicle all figured out, but no, that's what's uncomfortable. So what about you, Chuck? Let's hear your 1 and 10-year vision.
Yeah, and this is something we've been talking about offline, and something I've been thinking about quite a bit. Most recently is like coming up with that single focused thing. And I've been guilty of the fear of missing out. It's like I can help a lot of different people. I've helped guys, with their dating. I've helped guys, that are that have some addictions. I've helped guys who have been in relationships and they're not sure if they want to get in or if they want to get out. I've helped guys build better relationships. I've helped, and I often joke that when somebody says like, who's your customer? It's like, I don't care. If you need a haircut, I'll give you a haircut. I'm just trying to help everybody. And I think that's been why I get burnt out and why I'm, as I'm saying yes to everyone instead of saying no to everybody and yes to my perfect client, and really kind of defining that, and who is it that not only who can I help, but who do I enjoy helping and who can I help the most. So really kind of spending a lot of time in the last week, really asking myself some deeper questions about, how do I focus down? How do I get a destination down, and who is it?
So you're a nice guy generalist. You want to be a nice guy.
Well, I mean,
specialist,
people
nice
pay
guy
for specialists, right? Yeah, the generalists, you don't make as much money as the specialist. And I think that by specializing in something, that does two things. One is it makes me more valuable. It makes me really serve the people that I like to work with the best. And it also then gives me kind of a filter to be like, okay, no, somebody's like, hey, I really want to, I want to up my dating game, instead of saying, oh yeah, I can help you with that. I want to be like, yeah, that's not what I do. So I think just really getting some real clarification And similarly, like I want to build something. I want to build a business. And this is something else I was talking about. Like I think in the past I've seen my business as a therapist, and as a therapist we're trained to build a practice,
Yeah.
and we're not really trained to build a business, and really kind of making a new mental mind shift of I'm no longer building a business or a practice. That's been my intention for the last 15 years, is build a practice. I have a practice. The practice is great, but what I don't really have is a clear vision for a business of taking this thing sort of to the next level of, creating something that makes money outside of myself. And I think like in Rich Dad Poor Dad, that book Rich Dad Poor Dad, he talks about this a lot of like, I have a very singular business. You remove me from the business and the business doesn't exist anymore. Whereas, a business that's not based on me and what I can do, but has a broader reach and has a big, scalable and all those kind of buzzwords, that's something that I've been trying to find. And kind of going back to what I was telling Faisal, is like, I just need to make a choice. I just need to choose something and really be like, okay, no distractions. This is what I'm going to do. And then when the shiny objects are like, hey, this guy over here, he's a really cool guy. He really wants some help, and he just needs a little bit of help with dating, to be able to say, no, that's not my client. I can't help him
Yeah.
as much as I want to, but also really being able to just like hyper focus in the one thing. So my intention for the next year, and when I looked around at the different domains, like I have an amazing life. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got kids. I mean, we struggle with the kids. Everyone, we got one that's, struggles quite a bit, and that often kind of interferes with the quality of the relationship. But, I live in my dream house. I drive my dream car. I have my dream wife. My world is great. It's just that I haven't built something that can take me to the next level.
So,
And I haven't really even
do you have your
defined
dream
what that is.
purpose? Would you say you have your dream purpose?
I would say in many ways I have my dream purpose. I mean, I love what I do,
Hmm.
but I think it needs refining. I think it needs to like really hinge down. And I think Faisal, you said this a couple of days ago when we were talking about this offline. It's like um like a band or somebody, they made hits back in the 80s. And this is kind of funny because we just saw this film this weekend for Tears for Fears, for you guys that know that band back from the 80s. And I was a big Tears for Fears band back in the 80s, right? And so we went and saw this. It was a concert of them. And as a lot of musicians do, they're bored of the old songs, and so they're like, hey, we just created this new song and it's really great, we're really excited about it. And they play it and you're like, yeah, it's okay, but I want to hear shout. I want to hear I want to hear Everybody Rules the World. And so when those songs come on, you're like, yeah, that's awesome. But these guys have played that for the past 40-45 years, and they're tired of it. But I think that's what people want. And I think similarly with the vision for us, it's like, okay, what is the thing that we're, not that we get bored, but it's like that we're known for, and try to stay in that, as opposed to like, okay, I want to branch out and write all this new material that is exciting for me, but not for everybody else.
Yeah. Because when you start something new and it's exhausting because you have this disappointment because it hasn't taken traction. And the reason why it's not taking traction because we haven't given it enough time. It's just like habits. Because how many other guys have started habits? Oh yeah, I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to start something. And they start something and they stop. And they haven't had that traction to rinse and repeat and really commit to it. So I wonder if the challenge, or we were talking about, is commitment issues. But before we dive into that, Ari, what's your 1 year and 10 year?
Yeah, I think there's a commitment piece to this. There's a persistence. So, I've been thinking more about my vision a lot. I think I realized that like I'm all in on coaching. So I think that like part of my vision for the 1 year is to, just be a coach. I've still had some therapy clients. I'm ending with them just because I'm most connected to this coaching model. And so what kind of coach am I? Is it for men who are stuck in relationships? Kind of like what Chuck was saying. Is there a specific type of nice guy? I think one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is like that I'm really interested in rapid transformation. So it isn't necessarily about the person. I love working with nice guys, but like I've been really interested in how can I accelerate the process for them. So I'm imagining this is part of my unique gift to people. I know it sounds kind of like grandiose to say that, but like I think we all have unique gifts. I think that's part of this visioning practice. I want to. I really want to give people transformation. I think to go back to my past, I thought that I was going to get that from therapy, going through therapy and offering therapy. And now I believe that transformation is in the coaching approach, and I want to give it to my clients, and I want to give it to the world. So my vision for the next year is really honing in on my unique approach. And I want to do more than just coach nice guys. I also want to coach leaders and business people, because I'm already doing that. A lot of the clients that I work with have their own business, so I just want to develop that. And that is a stretch for me, coming from a psychology background. And that's where, when we're talking about you may not know all the steps to get there. That's okay. You create the vision and the steps will get clearer over time.
So is rapid transformation, is that the vehicle or is that the vision?
I think it's both.
So but like if you were to like, I can get a little bit more granular of like, who do you want to help?
Well, right now I'm focusing on nice guys, but I'm envisioning that will expand. Mm-hmm. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking like focus, right, isn't expansion. It's actually like drilling down.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, like, is that, and I'm just asking the question, is that going to take you, is it going to distract you from like the single vision of like, what is it that Ari wants to do?
I don't know. I don't, kind of like what you were talking about before about like having a practice and just like seeing lots of clients. Yeah. I think I want to figure out how I can have a greater impact on people.
Gotcha.
So how about a question
not necessarily about quantity?
Yeah. So how about a question is the biggest surface, bigger high level question would be, what do you want to be known for? Yeah, because you have a lot of these men will leave legacies, and it's not like, oh yeah, they had this thing in there, they were doing this or they were doing that, but what were they known for? Because you have a lot of remarkable men and women that have left this earth and they were known for something. So do you guys know what you want to be known for? I mean, we know Dr. Glover. He's known for bringing the nice guy syndrome to so many men. Yeah. So
and laying out a vision for what an integrated man looks like.
Yeah. So
that's the other piece of it.
Yeah. You've got Elon Musk, you've got Jeff Bezos, you've got Martin Luther King. You've got all of these guys. They all had a vision, right? So without a vision, the people will perish. So I was wondering, what's your legacy? What do you want to be known for? That's something to think about.
Part of what I'm talking about is like, revolutionizing how people change. And I'm not saying that people aren't already doing that. I'm just saying like this old therapy model that I'm coming from, that I grew up in,
right,
and that I trained in, I think is outdated in a lot of ways, and that so many people can benefit from the coaching approach. I mean, that's part of why coaching is exploding right now. So, to me, it's been revolutionary in my life, and I'm creating my own coaching approach that I want to help revolutionize other people's lives. So I could envision that being a book, not in the next year necessarily, but definitely in the next 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good vision. Chuck, do you know what you want to be known for?
Yeah, and like I said, I'm working this out, but I'm coming to it, which is, really drilling down to like who do I like to help, who can I help, and like what is the avatar, who's the guy, right, that I'm speaking to, and and like I said, we've talked about this before. I think I had started a niche which was helping nice guys that were in marriages that were falling apart fix their marriages, and then I kind of started to like write new material, and expand, and helping guys that were dating and helping guys that were maybe dealing with issues with porn or something like that. And my vision is to help married men create dynamic, wonderful relationships that are lasting. And I may even niche that down to men who have been married a second time.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Your DWR.
DWR.
Dynamic, wonderful relationship.
There you go. You all got to have a framework. That's what it is.
we just need more acronyms.
Right.
Yeah.
I might use that, Ari.
Go right ahead.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's what is Chuck known for? Yeah, guys who second time round they don't want to fuck it up. That's what he's known for. Chuck, that's what he's known for. What's Ari known for?
Well, and that's what I can help with, because that's where I come from, and I think that's also this piece of it is like you're going to help who you were, 5-10 years ago, and who I was 5-10 years ago was I was in a new third marriage, and I didn't want to fuck it up. And so I know that feeling of like, oh God, am I going to do this again? Am I, so the question then is, I don't know if it's going to be guys that are thinking about getting into a second marriage, or they're already in a second marriage and they're, they're struggling with the same things.
The second marriage coach.
Yeah. I think that's just kind of, I'm going to,
or third,
fifth,
You might have to. You might have to buy multiple domain names as well. Fourthmarriage.com, fifthmarriage.com.
I do want to say one thing about, like, I appreciate how vulnerable we've gotten in this conversation, including just acknowledging you don't know pieces of your vision, and you don't know how you're going to get there, and we're collaborating. Like, it's important, if you're listening to this, to have collaborators that you vision with, or maybe even that you create a shared vision with. We probably can value of having another man, a men's group, but you can create a shared vision with your wife, with your business partners, with your podcast partners. It's probably a whole nother episode, but do you have anyone that you share your vision with, if you're even creating a vision, that will give you feedback, that will ask you questions? Because like a question that just came up for me, Chuck, is does our vision have to be about helping people that we were 7 years ago, or can it be something relatively new, even if there's a through line? Like for me, coaching people in business, that will be a relatively novel thing. Or coaching people who are leading governments, I would love to do that eventually. That's a 10-year one, so you can allow yourself to create a vision, and it can seem far-fetched, and you don't know how to get there, and that's okay. Your brain will go to work on figuring out the steps.
Yeah, as long as you've got the destination. That's one of the things I do miss, is that really clear destination, because as soon as that destination was there, all obstacles were like, okay, we can overcome them, and the focus I wasn't focused on, oh, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. It's like, hey, we're just going here. We'll just find a route, whatever it takes. We'll just find a way. Here's a question for you guys. If you had a blank slate, start from zero, nothing, you've got nothing now. And do you know what you would do? If you could start from absolute zero, you didn't have to work in the coaching industry you want. You could just start from anywhere you want. I guess Ari won't be a stylist. If you're listening to this on Audible or something like that, yeah, Ari's. Three of us have got very loud shirts. I think we were just getting the spirit of the 100th episode, and getting ready for the Mexico trip as well.
I would want to play music. I would want to rap. I'm just being honest. Would want to DJ. Just build out that artistic piece. Like to have a creative life sounds amazing to me. And the reality is I can still do that. It won't be like creating a career as a musician, but I could learn to play music. So things like that. But I wish that my life had been about that early on. So that's one thing for me. It's just this creative life.
What about you, Chuck?
Yeah, really similar, because that's kind of what I started out with, as an artist. And then, I got married and I had to work. And so then I became, a graphic designer in corporate America and worked in advertising and marketing for, the first half of my career. And that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I wanted to have more of a, artistic type of, do what I wanted to do kind of thing, maybe a little more bohemian. But so, if I had it to do all over again, I probably would have chosen the way of the artist, which meant like I probably wouldn't have gotten married as young as I did, at least. Probably wouldn't have, focused on trying
You'd
to
be on your fourth marriage, not your fifth.
I'd be on my fourth marriage, probably. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think like Ari, the creative side of things, the creative things. And it's kind of like that's like my 10-year vision, actually, is, I'm older than you guys. So 10 years for me.
Now the truth is coming out. Yeah.
10 years for me is like, I don't want to be working 10 years from now. I want to be having fun. But that's why, a few years ago, I started getting into pottery as a hobby, because I wanted something to do after I retired that was fun, that I could just kind of enjoy doing and, sell things on the side or something, but not have to like make a bajillion dollars, but just really enjoy doing it, and having more of a creative outlet. So I think that's part of my vision, is to build something that's helpful and sustainable, but then, and that I can even continue to do 10 years from now, but I'm not having to do it, tons of hours each week, that I'm creating more spaciousness and more freedom to be able to enjoy the golden years, the twilight years.
So have you sold any of your pottery?
I have not sold pottery. I've not sold any. I've never tried to sell it. It's not, and that's a thing too.
Don't like all your clients get a free pottery or something. This is what
the next.
This is your aura. This is what it is.
Free mug with every order. Yeah.
What about you, Faisal? Answer that question. If you could start with a blank slate.
So it either be, I'm really fascinated with energy. So I would probably want to go into renewable energies, because when I'm got nothing else to do, I'm usually reading news on renewable energies and solar panels and batteries, and I'm like, I'm a real nerd, right? I really like all of this stuff, and so I'd probably want to always, always from a young age, I've been fascinated with how can we get free energy from the world, from the sun or something like that, and always looking at how can we be more efficient, because I believe that when we have free energy, it will help the earth, it'll help the world and poverty and people, because energy will enable and reduce a lot of the challenges and the problems that we have. And energy is, so to me, one of the ways that we can help the earth, the world, is we can use renewable energy, and then people can be, sustainable on their own and not rely on heating or rely on keeping cool or running things. So that's one headache away from that. So that's probably what I'd probably go into, which is very
That's really
different.
interesting. Yeah. Well,
But
it was making me think about, like, we're already doing that on a psychological level. We're helping people access their energy,
yes, yeah,
and it's actually abundant if they can tap into it.
yeah. And then we were taking away some of their pains that they have that disconnects them. So, for example, I'm working with this guy, and and he's in a relationship. He's married, and he's not my usual clients. My usual clients are single guys, but he said that, I really want to get rid of my nice guy, and I want to be respected more, so he can take away the headache from his relationships that he's having, so he can focus on his bigger vision, his purpose. So one of the things that really kills vision, kills our purpose, kills is what's happening in the background. So if we're unhappy in our relationships, if we're unhappy at home, that plays a real dampen in our vision and our purpose. And you're thinking, well, what's the point? So if you're stuck in a toxic relationship, all you're thinking about is all the chaos where you're going to come home to, all the erosion of your confidence, your self-worth, and you lose that confidence. And then you take that out and it's like, well, I don't have that spirit of life again. I wanted that creative life, that the zest of passion and going out. And so it wears you down. And one of the things that we do, is help guys to develop that strength so they can get that zest, they can get that spirit, they can feel confident again about themselves and their life and their relationships.
Right. I mean, I think nice guys don't have much room for vision. They don't have much room for more than sort of surviving or getting by in a lot of cases.
And most guys don't. They don't want anything else. I remember I was talking to a friend. Actually, I have a few friends. Sometimes I'm like, okay, that's probably the best life, is they just do the work, come home, and they're happy. And they're like, well, we don't need to study and have all of this introspection. We don't know what you're going on about on Facebook. I haven't got a clue, right? They're like, what does this mean? And what does that mean? What relationship? They're like, just be simple. Yeah. Yeah, they just go to work, they come home. Yeah, they have food.
I know.
Yeah, and you're thinking, it's the simplicity of life that they just really enjoy. And sometimes, they're making mistakes, but they're like, okay, cool. And they just move on. I'm like,
No, I often think of my brother, who's he retired like 3 years ago, and he's 3 years younger than me. So he's 50, I don't know, 56, something like that. But and he was a UPS driver. He drove UPS his entire career. From the time he was out of high school, he started loading boxes. When he turned 21, he got a truck, and then the last several years he drove the semis around. And he retired with a full pension, and now he spends his days, shooting archery. And I was like, oh, that sounds so wonderful. Like, he has no student loans. He has no, has raised a family, and he's enjoying his life. And there's part of me that kind of wishes, like, why couldn't I just have that singular focus kind of early on? But so I hear what you're saying. Like, that's
yeah, because we overcomplicate things. We bring too much. Our ruminating. That's the thing. I think is that ruminating mind brings in too many complexes and problems and too many cogs in there, and it throws the spanners in the work. So I think less is more.
Well, and your vision doesn't have to be grandiose, either.
No.
And it's okay if you want to live your life kind of the same in the future, or you just want to make incremental improvements, but you do have a choice. You can have a larger vision. That's a choice that you have. And I think, I'm personally into transformational growth, like this idea we were talking about earlier of, going 10xing your life. It's not for everybody, but for me, that's that's exciting, that's rewarding. That doesn't mean I need to have $10 million to be happy.
Have you been listening to Grant Cardone? 10x your life and 10x your bank balances and 10x your girlfriends.
everything.
Yeah.
But 10x doesn't look the same for everybody, but it
just 10 times more.
What is it? But 10 times 0 is still 0.
So we're not necessarily talking about
vision.
Yeah, we're not talking about necessarily quantity. It's also 10 times the quality that you have right now.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I think like really kind of going through your life in, I often teach like the 6 domains, so you've got physical, emotional, spiritual, relational, financial, recreational, and these are the things I kind of like check in with, or where am I in alignment? How's my physical fitness? Am I taking care of that? How's my emotional mind? Am I taking care of that? How's my spiritual connection with things that are bigger than myself? How are my relationships? Are they imbalanced? Is my financial world in terms of like either, my business or that? And then I think the one that tends to fall to the wayside the most is recreational, which is having fun, and by creating a checklist, so to say, of where am I at in these things, and really kind of creating a vision for all 6 of those areas. That's what I'm trying to do, and I think mine are pretty dialed in. The financial piece would be the one that needs to be dialed in a little bit more, so that I can kind of maintain all of this. But and so that's where the business piece kind of comes in for me.
I got one more important question before we wrap up this talk, which is, what's your 1-year vision for the Nice Guy Show?
Ooh. So it's 2024. Well, I want to. Here's what I see. By the end of 2025, if we don't have a substantial, at least I would say at least.
Now, what's your vision? Where are we going to be?
Where we're going to be, or where we want to be. That's so. I think vision for me is that by say end of in a year's time, end of the next year, I want to be in a place where there is momentous growth. There is like a constant growth happening to it.
Let's put a number on it.
Yeah, I want to at least hit 5,000 subscribers. That's where I want to go to, and that's more than 10x. But I want, because I know how growth happens with YouTube and everything like that. But it'll be 3 years since we've been working on it, and in 3 years' time, I want it to have reached a substantial amount. If it's stagnant, then I'm happy to say, okay, guys, the show, the curtains must close now, because then it might be a blessing, because it might just help me then focus on my vision, because I have a vision for my framework, the 5 fractures, which is really solidifying, because I know that I want to be speaking on it, write a book on it, signature talks on it. I know I want to be doing that. And I've got some more ideas that I've been ruminating about it today. But for the Nice Guy, I wanted to hit at least massive growth. If not, then it might be curtains. What about you, Chuck?
How about you, Ari? Do you have a vision?
Yeah, I was thinking my vision is 10,000 subscribers, so that could be more than just YouTube. I mean, if we're thinking of, the different platforms, that's what I think we should go for. But it's not just the number of subscribers in my vision. It's the type of relationship we have with our listeners or viewers. I would like for us to be answering their questions, potentially having them, on the show, and just having a greater impact on people's lives. Like I know we've already impacted people's lives, because my clients listen to the show, or just other nice guys that we know, like from Integration Nation, listen to the show, and they've talked about the impact of different episodes on them, or they've used it to reach out and get more help in their life. So I already know we're having an impact. I just think we could have an even greater impact on people. So those are some of my goals for 1 year from now.
Yeah, and I guess my vision also is to have it be something that we enjoy doing. I think if if it's distracting us from our mission, or if it's something that, it's taking a lot of time and it's becoming an obstacle rather than a vehicle for our own growth. So I would like to see, my vision would be that we do more shows like this, that we do more like longer hour episodes instead of like little 15-minute chunks on a particular topic, that it's a little bit more organic. I think that'll make it more fun for us. I think it'll make it more fun for the people that are listening as well, that it's a conversation rather than a teaching, that it's a expression of who we are as individuals, as recovering nice guys, as business owners, as fathers, husbands, brothers, teachers, that it can kind of expand even beyond like the nice guy syndrome into men in general who maybe don't even identify as nice guys might get something from the show. So I really want it to be something that's fun and enjoyable, and that we're not, coming on and feeling like, okay, what are we going to do today, you guys? And I don't know what the answer to that is necessarily in terms of like, creating a format or function. I just know that I feel more connected today than I have in other episodes where we're talking about a particular subject.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, I like the vulnerability that we've shown today, because I think the listeners appreciate this. They appreciate that we're leading in this way. We didn't just present a shiny, perfect vision to them. We actually showed them our own process, and we were willing to be vulnerable and put our own vision out there in its current form.
Yeah, it's clunky, it's not refined. It's, sometimes, we struggle with it too. It's like we have our challenges with it. Just because we're coaches doesn't mean our world is perfect. And nice guys always want, or, the perfectionism in us want it to be perfect as well. And
right. It takes guts to do this. It takes balls.
Yeah.
That's
and also
part of what you're,
I want to find out is if our listeners, if you guys got something that you want to share with us, maybe you have a vision for us, maybe you see something that we're not seeing, get in touch. Go to niceguyshow.com. There's a contact form in there. Send us a message, because we're open to ideas that maybe we're blind to.
I think it's really easy for us to become nice guys on this show in terms of like, okay, what does everybody want to hear from us? Like how can we make them like us more and get more subscribers? And then we're just kind of falling back into the nice guy trap of doing to get. We're making a covert contract with our listeners of, we're going to give you, great advice, and then you're going to like us, and we're going to get more listeners, and then we're going to be able to monetize and all of those kind of things that we lose sight of. We need to be here for people, and if they like us, they like us. If they don't, they don't. But we don't need to, I don't know, we don't, and I'm talking to myself here too, like I don't need to create a shiny product. I probably need to create something that's just a little bit more vulnerable, and we can talk about that later, but that's my thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we lead. We're trying to encourage people to lead more authentic lives, that it's not about pleasing. And I think if you're a content creator,
it's really
hard
to fall into that.
It's hard. Yeah.
I feel sorry for content creators, because they're so towards what the audience wants. They're always trying to please the audience rather than, serve the audience. And, our mission is to serve the audience. And sometimes what we'll say won't always sit well with you, but sometimes the truth will hurt. And what we hear is we're here with a purpose, a mission, and it's to serve you. And I keep thinking of my coach, and he said this to me a few months ago. And he said to me, listen to this song, Frank Sinatra's, I did it my way. And he kept saying to me, Faisal, what's your way? I know you're doing a lot of this thing. He says, but what's your way? I want you to listen to this song. And then I want you to remember that when you leave this earth, I want you to sing that song and say, hey, you know what? I did it my way. And he kept saying, what is it about you? What is it you want? And he just kept tapping into that. Yeah, it's just a real, it's a good question to keep asking yourself, is if I did life my way, what would it be?
That's all we're asking today. That's all we're really asking the nice guy community to do, is tap into your wants, tap into yourself, your own feelings. You know, what's at your deepest core. All right, it seems like a good place to stop, and I really enjoyed this conversation. One last thing I'll say is, just consider the vision not something that's a burden or overwhelming. It's a learning tool. Like, we don't have to meet every part of our vision in order to learn from it, or even even if we met half of this vision that we've laid out, that would be a big success. You got to look at this thing in a more nuanced way. Thank you, Faisal and Chuck, for asking me to be on this show. This has been a great adventure for me, so I appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to The Nice Guy Show with certified Nice Guy recovery coaches Ari Graff, Chuck Chapman, and Faisal Khokhar. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can listen to our latest episodes, and visit us on www.theniceguyShow.com. If you have any topics you'd like to hear us discuss, send us an email at support@theniceguyShow.com. Thanks for listening.